Asato ma satkamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya, avirāvirmayeti, rudrayatte takshinam mukham, tena mam pahi nityam. May the divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the divine consciousness fill our hearts and protect us. Peace, peace, peace be unto. I am happy to be with you all virtually on this foundation day of the Vidyamandira. In normal circumstances, we would have all been together in person, but these are not normal times. So in the midst of the pandemic, most of the programs everywhere, all over the world, are becoming online. Even schools and colleges, most of the classes now are online. And so we are trying to connect with each other, even though we are all now in different places. Almost all of you are now watching this from the comfort of your home. I am sitting here. This is the prayer hall of the Ramakrishna Vedanta Society in Boston. This is a Boston branch of the Ramakrishna Mutt. This is the third oldest branch in the United States. During Swamiji's time, the first one was started in New York, the second in San Francisco, and after Swamiji's Mahasamadhi, this is the first branch that was started by Swamiji's disciple, Swami Paramananda. So this is the prayer hall. You see the altar behind me, and every Sunday we meet here for a satsang, and then we have evening meditations and also a once a week scripture class. Now all of these things in the last 15 months have all gone online. So as I sit here now looking at the camera and imagining all of you in front of me, to share with you a few thoughts about what the foundation of our life means, because I think that is one of the things we could reflect on a foundation day. This is the foundation day of the Vidyamandira, one of the premier institutions of the Ramakrishna Order. We have some excellent schools and colleges being run in different parts of India and a few even abroad. But the last 15 months have been difficult. As I said, most of the programs have gone online, and everywhere students have found it very difficult to continue their studies online. Teachers have found it difficult to engage their students through online teaching. Difficult as this period has been and still continues to be, we don't know how long this will continue. Although in many parts of the world the situation is improving, nevertheless, the challenges have always been there, and the challenges will continue to be there as well. But the ingenuity of the human mind is such that in spite of these difficulties, we have found a way to connect with each other. It may not be the most ideal way, but to still. So here we are together virtually on a foundation day. I'm trying to see you through my mind's eye, and although there is just a camera in front of me right now, and I'm sure you don't have to do much imagination because you are seeing me on your computer screen. So I would like to speak something about establishing connections, and that's been a major problem in these times. We have already found a way to connect with each other through technology, even before the pandemic. Some of you, I guess most of you as students, may not realize that there was a world without cell phones, without social media, without the internet. Those of you who are very young may not realize how radically the world has changed in the last 25 to 30 years. But technology has been a great blessing. We have been able to find ways to connect with each other through social media, of course, through Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and all of that. But also establish connection through using cell phones, through video chats, and of course through streaming, as this particular event makes it clear. So technology certainly, in the times in which we live, has been a very helpful way to remain connected. But there are other ways of connecting with each other as well. One way is through knowledge. Swami Vivekananda once said, look at the ocean, not at the waves. That's a very profound statement and provides a lot of thought, lot of food for thought. Through knowledge, we know that at the physical level, every object, every entity, living or non-living, is ultimately a set of atoms and molecules. The entire physical universe can be seen as just an ocean of atoms and molecules. So there is really no gap between you and me. So this body is filled with atoms and molecules. Your body is made up of atoms and molecules. The space separating us, whether it's a few feet, a few miles, or a few thousand miles, is filled with air, filled with material that is also made of atoms and molecules. So we can see ourselves as these little waves of material particles at the physical level, but all interconnected. So even at the physical level, we are connected at this level of tiny particles. We can't see them through our naked eyes, of course, but that's how it is. But if we look at it even in a more subtle way, we can imagine, just as there is this universal ocean of material particles, we can imagine an ocean of ideas and thoughts and emotions and feelings, all those things which are a part of our personality, which we cannot see, but which are very much there. So just as there are thoughts, ideas, emotions, and feelings in my mind, there are thoughts, ideas, emotions, and feelings in the mind of every being on this planet. And all of those ideas, just as these material particles can move freely from one place to another, these ideas and thoughts and feelings also move freely from one mind to another. So when we get some brilliant idea, we begin to think, what makes that idea mine? If certain water which is in a wave, does that water belong to that wave? We might say, well, it belongs to the ocean. Exactly in the same way, we might discover that all of the ideas and emotions and feelings that we have are shared in common with the entire humanity. That even at that subtle level, we are all interconnected. You might have heard about thought transference, or they sometimes call it telepathy. Swami Vivekananda discusses this in some of his lectures. How it's possible for idea to go from one mind to another, even without the use of words. So that's another way. Knowledge shows us that we are connected not only at the physical level, but also at the subtle mental level, psychological level. There's another way of establishing connection, and that is through love, through our relationships. We know that we are connected with our families, with our parents, with our brothers, with our sisters, with our friends. There is an unseen bond. You don't see any physical connection, but you know that through relationships, we are connected with one another. And that's why genealogy becomes also important. Even with those people whom we may have never met, we still feel connected. For instance, many of us have seen our parents, our grandparents, but not many of us have had a chance to meet our great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents. But nevertheless, even if we read about them or hear about them, we somehow feel that through a line of succession, we are connected with our ancestors, and we will remain connected through the succeeding generations as well. So there is this connection that gets established through relationships. So we have seen that connection can be established through technology, through understanding, through knowledge, through love, through relationships. But there is also an even more deeper, even more subtle way of connecting with one another. And that is through spirituality. That not only are we one at the level of matter, remember what I said about the ocean of matter, not only are we connected through this ocean of ideas, but that we are connected with one another at the spiritual level as well. Now that is what we read when we study the Upanishads, the Gita, when we look at the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swamiji, the direct disciples, and through all the great ones, not only in Hinduism, but in every religious tradition, they have showed a spiritual way of connecting with one another, with discovering how we are related to one another. Swami Vivekananda once defined religion as the eternal relationship between the eternal soul and eternal God. If we can discover in what way we are connected, not only with one another, but also with the source from which everything has come, our life will become truly blessed. Because that is the experience of everyone, everywhere. That those who are connected, who feel connected, those who have that sense of connection, they are the people who are happy. Now that is one thing we all share in common. We are all distinct beings. No two amongst us have the same life story. We are all unique. Every one of us is unique. Not only do we have physical appearance different, but even the way our mind thinks is very different. So there are lots of things that are special, are unique about every one of us. But there is one thing, well, there is more than one thing, but at least one thing that we all share in common, and that is we want to be happy. We don't want any problems, we don't want any pain, we don't want any difficulties, we want to be happy. Now, way we may differ is about our ideas about what will make us happy. Some people might think this A will make me happy, or B will make me happy, or C or D. We might have 100 different ideas about what might make us happy, but we know that we want to be happy. And so, one thing that we can say with complete confidence is that if I want to be happy, I need to discover the right connections. If I want to be happy, I need to feel connected. A lot of people, even at a very young age, who have problems are those who don't feel that sense of connection. In fact, some of you may have heard about some terrible incidents that occurred in recent years in schools here in North America, of course, but also in Europe, how some troubled students went and shot some of their friends, carried a gun to the school, and horrible things happened. And in almost every case, it was found that those students were somehow troubled, that they could not connect themselves with their friends, with their families, with their neighbors. Somehow that connection was missing. On the other hand, if we look at the lives of people who are successful, who are happy, who are well established, who feel fulfilled, who feel a sense of achievement in their life, in almost every case we will find that if they are truly happy, it's because they feel truly connected. Now, learning how to connect not only with the people immediately around us, but with this world at large, but also this entire existence itself, how to connect with that existence, that is the purpose of study. That is what Vidya really means. Now, you are studying in Vidyamandira. Now, mandir is a temple. A temple is where we are able to find that connection through knowledge, through Vidya. The word for student is, in most Indian languages, we say Vidyarthi. Now, if you go to the meaning of the term Vidyarthi, Vidya plus Arthi, one who wants Vidya, one who seeks Vidya, one who seeks knowledge. And it quickly becomes apparent that merely going to a school or a college is not enough to call ourselves a Vidyarthi. So that's the question. As students, we all need to ask ourselves, why have I joined this course? Why have I decided to apply to study at Vidyamandira? Is it because I'm a Vidyarthi, or what is it that I'm seeking? Now, many times in many places, if we are honest to ourselves, many of us might say, well, I'm going to school because ultimately it'll give me a degree, and that degree will make me eligible to get a job and become well settled in life, give me financial security, and so on. So is that my primary motive to join a school, to get a degree? If that is my primary motive, then I'm not really a Vidyarthi. Then I become, if you want to coin a term, a degree arthi, if you like. But Vidyarthi means, yes, of course, if I study hard, if I do well, I will get degree, I will shine forth, I will find a good career. All that will happen. But I should still ask myself, am I really seeking knowledge? And what will that knowledge do? Sri Ramakrishna said, knowledge leads to unity. ignorance leads to diversity. So knowledge would really mean if I can find a way that where I see distinction, I'll be able to see the underlying unity behind all the diversity that exists. That I will be able to establish connection even when things look very disparate or different or distant. In that context, I would like to share with you a passage from Swamiji's letter that he wrote to the Diwan of Junagadh. His name was Haridas Viharidas Desai. Swamiji wrote this letter in January of 1894. And there is this small little passage which is extremely inspiring and very thought-provoking. It's a kind of passage that makes us reflect on not only what it says, but reflect on our own life, to connect it to our own life and ask ourselves some really tough questions, some hard questions. So what does that passage say? So this is what Swamiji wrote in a letter to that gentleman. He said, 3 things are necessary to make every man great, every nation great. 1, conviction in the powers of goodness. 2, absence of jealousy and suspicion. And 3, helping all who are trying to be and do good. Very profound passage. 3 things. If we do not do anything else in life, if we can just focus on these 3 things, our lives will become truly blessed. So what is the first thing? Conviction in the powers of goodness. Now we are all good. Most of us are good. And I'm no doubt at all that all of you who are listening to this program, all of you are good. If you were not good, you would not be a part of Vidyamandira. But there is so much screening that goes in while choosing those who can be a part of this great institution. But we may be good, but are we convinced in the power of goodness? Now, what is the difference between being good and being convinced of the power of goodness? What is the difference between the two? The difference is this, that most of us are good most of the time. And that's okay, that's wonderful, that's nice. But our mettle is tested in difficult times, in challenging times. That can I remain good? Can I do what is right? Even when there are situations where holding on to doing what is right may lead to me losing something. Or let's just take truthfulness or honesty for that matter. That most of us are truthful most of the time. But there may be situations in life when not being truthful or telling a lie, however harmless that lie might appear to be, in order to gain some advantage, or to tell a falsehood in order to avoid certain difficulty. We need to ask ourselves, how often do I do that in my life? Am I able to hold on to truth no matter what? Or do I sometimes make compromises in life? So that is the test. Conviction in the power of goodness means to know that ultimately goodness will always be victorious. I use the word ultimately intentionally because there are occasions in life where in short term goodness may seem to lead to suffering. And we see that in life. people who are extremely good, extremely honest, extremely truthful, sometimes may seem to be left behind. Sometimes it might seem as if people who make lots of compromises, people who tell lies, people who are dishonest, may seem to push others behind and march ahead. Even in the face of this kind of experience in life, can I still touch my heart and say, I'll still hold on to truth? And this will happen only with the conviction that ultimately truth alone will triumph. That's why when our country became free, we became independent, and when they had to choose a motto, they chose this great statement from the Upanishads, Satyameva Jayate, truth alone triumphs. Ultimately, truth alone will be victorious. This is important because, and as I said, the word ultimately doesn't occur there, but I think it's good to keep that in mind. Now, if we can do that, our lives will become truly blessed. I spoke about connections. We will be able to discover this deeper connection we have with the entire existence if we can hold on to that truth. That is why Sri Ramakrishna said that being truthful is the austerity for this Kali Yuga, for the times in which we live. There is also the saying in Mahabharata, says, Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. If I protect dharma, dharma will protect me. There is one little story that when I was in training center way back in the 80s, one of very elderly Swami who was our Acharya in training center, named was Swami Shikshanandaji Maharaj, he told us this story. Some of you may have heard it. It's wonderful. So this is the story about a king who was a very good king, who took very good care of everyone in his kingdom. And he wanted to make sure that people are happy everywhere. So one day when he was going on a round, he came upon a small village in his kingdom, and he found that the people there were extremely poor. The village had fallen on really bad times. And that made him sad. He asked them, what happened? Why aren't you doing well? The rest of the kingdom seems to be doing so well. Why is everyone in this condition here? And the villagers told him that unfortunately the products that they were making and selling don't have customers anymore. They said that at one time it was a very thriving place. It produced a lot of goods. But unfortunately, they are fallen upon difficult times, and now when they produce something, there are no buyers. And the king decided to do something about it. So the king told them, okay, now you start manufacturing your goods again. And once a month, you have a big market, an open market. And let the people around know what things you are making available, and let people come and buy them. And if anything remains unsold at the end of the day, I will make sure that they are bought from the royal treasury. My people will come and buy all unsold goods. So you will be sure that you will never go into a loss. With that assurance, then the villagers began to work. They started manufacturing the kind of things they were making. They started holding this once a month markets, and people started coming again. They started buying things. And at the end of the day, whatever remains unsold, the king's men came and bought all that. So the village quickly became secure financially and started thriving once again. and everything seemed to be going well. Until one day, a few weeks or a few months after this, suddenly the king heard some commotion outside his palace. So he looked out of the window and wanted to know what had happened. So he sent one of his guards and said, "Find out what's happened. Why is there so much noise there?" So the guard goes, inquires, comes back and reports to the king that there is this one person from that village who has one unsold item. And he is complaining that the king's men are refusing to buy that. So the king called his assistant and said, "Why? We made a promise that we will buy all the unsold goods. Why don't you buy that one?" Then the assistant said, "O king, that man is a sculptor, and he has sculpted an image of a Lakshmi. Now, Lakshmi is the goddess of fortune or wealth, and everyone wants to keep the image of Lakshmi. But this man had made an image of a Lakshmi, the opposite of Lakshmi. See, I don't know why he made that image, but he made that image. And so whoever keeps that image, misfortune will go there. Poverty will enter there. And so, of course, it's understandable, completely understandable, why no one wanted to buy that image. Now, here is this king's promise that I'll buy all the unsold goods." And so the king knew that this was a very terrible decision. But he has to keep his word. He has given his word, and so he said, "I will hold on to my word. I will not deviate from it." And so he said, "Buy that image." So, well, that was the king's order. His assistant went, paid the money, got that image. And the king said, "Okay, go and put it in one of the halls." It's a huge palace, there are lots of rooms. So put it in one of the halls. That night, the king was not able to sleep. He knew that keeping the image of Alakshmi inside the palace would not only mean misfortune to him personally, but also to the entire kingdom. So he could not sleep. So whole night he was pacing up and down in his room. Then he suddenly heard the sound of a door opening. And that sound seemed to come from his own personal shrine. And so he saw, indeed, Lakshmi. He was a great worshipper of Mahavishnu or Narayana and Lakshmi. And so Lakshmi, who was there in his own personal mandir, in his own shrine, she was walking out of that shrine. And the king went and fell at her feet. He says, "Oh mother, where are you going?" And she said, "I was so happy here. You are such a wonderful devotee. But now I can't stay here because you have brought Alakshmi, and Alakshmi and Lakshmi cannot stay under the same roof. So you choose. If you want me to stay, she has to go. If she stays, I go." This is what we sometimes say is called Dharma Sankatam. So the king says, "I would like both of you to stay." And she said, "No, that's not possible." But the king had given a word that he is going to keep all those things. So the king could not throw away Alakshmi. So then he said, "No, I can't throw Alakshmi away." Lakshmi then said, "Then I have to go." And Lakshmi left the palace. The king became extremely worried. This was what he had feared most. This was the greatest danger. He continued to pace in his room. After some time, he hears sound again coming from the shrine. And he looked there and found Narayana himself. Narayana himself is now walking out. And he goes and says, "Lord, why are you going away?" And Narayana said, I stay where Lakshmi is. Lakshmi and I cannot stay apart. And that's understandable. Ishvara and Shakti cannot stay apart from one another. So if Lakshmi has gone away, Narayan also is going away. Again, king pleaded, please, please, please stay. And Narayan said, no, I have to go. And he left. The king got extremely worried now. What do I do? He still continued to pace, no sleep. After a while, he heard another sound, yet another sound coming from the shrine area. So he goes there, and there he finds some old person, little coughing and kind of with his blanket around his head like this, and he was coming out. And the king was like, wait a minute, who are you? And then that man said, I am Dharma, I am truth. And the king said, where are you going? Then the Dharma or truth said, have you ever seen Dharma or truth staying away from God? Wherever God is, wherever the Divine Mother is, there the truth will be. Narayana and Lakshmi have left, I have to leave also. Now the king was very strong. He simply went and held that old man, that Dharma, very tightly and said, I am not going to leave you. For your sake, I was not able to keep even Narayana. I was not able to keep Lakshmi. They went. But to you, I will not let you go. Come what may, at the cost of my life, I will hold on to you tight. And so he did not let him go. He once again took him back into the shrine and said, this is where you will be. You are not allowed to go. And then the king came out and once again started pacing up and down. After a little while, he hears the sound of his door opening. And then he finds that Narayana is coming back. And he was so happy. And he said, Narayana, you're back, I'm so happy. And Narayan said, look, I thought when I go, Dharma or truth or Satya will come with me. But I find, no, it's not come. I cannot stay away from Dharma. I cannot stay away from truth. So I will be where truth is. And so king was so happy. So this Narayana goes and again sits on the altar. After a little while, he hears the door again. You can guess what happened. Lakshmi. And Lakshmi walks in. And she said, I cannot stay away from Narayana. Where Narayana is, there I'll be. And the Lakshmi also comes in. So both Narayana and Lakshmi both were back. And then king noticed that image of Alakshmi, which he had put in a different hall, that had disappeared. And then he realized that this was a test that was put before him. And he felt so grateful, so happy, so humbled that through God's grace, he had passed that test. And this story is so inspiring. Unbeknownst to us, now most of you are students. I know a few of you will be graduating at the end of this month, and it's been difficult. I know the last 15 months of your college life, you were not able to meet with your friends. You were not able to come to college, meet your professors, and have kind of a normal academic life. And you will be now graduating and going out and meeting, as they sometimes say, being in the real world. I think life in college is as real as life outside. But nevertheless, people like to say that you are still in a kind of a protective environment of college, and now you'll be going out into this world outside. This story will be so helpful because in small and big ways, we will always be tested throughout our life. And what we have learned throughout our life, from our parents in our childhood, from all of our teachers, right from the time you went to kindergarten, in the primary school, middle school, high school, and then in college, at different stages of your education, the different teachers that we have had. So all of these guides that we have had in our life at different stages, what you have learned from your friends, what you have learned from the Swamis and the Brahmacharyans at Vidyamandira, all of that will be tested in small and big ways in life. And remember this story that time, that if you hold on to truth, if you hold on to dharma, it will protect you. It will give you joy, it will give you satisfaction, it will give you fulfillment, it will give you most of all that inner strength. Swamiji said, strength is life, weakness is death. To meet any of life's challenges, we need strength. And that strength will come if we hold on to dharma. That is what Swamiji said, conviction in the power of goodness. That power will come if we can hold on to this without any compromises. And then number 2, Swamiji said, absence of jealousy and suspicion. Again, if we are not alert, if we are not vigilant, jealousy will enter into the heart. Suspicion will enter into the heart. We have to be very, very careful to not allow them to overwhelm us. And finally, helping all who are trying to be and do good. We'll be able to help others be good only if we are good ourselves. So we have to try to be good ourselves and do good. Only then will it be possible for us to help others be good and do good. That is what Swamiji meant when he said be and make. So those of you who are now just entering the Vidyamandir, you will have a lot of opportunities going ahead to learn. Even when you excel in all the different subjects that are taught by your different professors and teachers, keep in mind that beyond and behind all these other details of different subjects, you have to first be a good human being. Because if you're strong internally, if you have that strength that comes through living truthfully, honestly, with kindness, with compassion, then that strength will bring that clarity to your mind, and that clarity will help you excel in your studies as well. That clarity will help you make important decisions as you go ahead in life. That clarity will help you choose wisely. There'll be so many instances in life where you will be called upon to make choices. And one wrong choice can set back your progress. But if you have that clarity, if you have that purity of mind, you will be able to see things clearly, choose wisely, and march ahead. So I'll now conclude with this one quotation from Swamiji, which is probably my most favorite quote of his. So I want to share it with you. So this is what Swami Vivekananda said. Live for an ideal, and that one ideal alone. Let it be so great, so strong, that there may be nothing else left in the mind. No place for anything else, no time for anything else. Think about this. It's a very profound statement. Swamiji said, if a person with an ideal makes mistakes, yes, we all make mistakes. Even when you have an ideal, you will make mistakes. But a person without ideal will make 100 times the more number of mistakes. So have an ideal, And we are so fortunate that we have Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swamiji, the direct disciples. There is so much to learn from them. And you are fortunate, as I said, to have this opportunity to be surrounded by people who will share with you these ideas and ideals. The professors you study with, the Swamis and the Brahmacharins at Vidyamandira, they have all been fired with this great enthusiasm. Their whole life has been dedicated to putting into practice the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother and Swamiji. So learn, become true Vidyarthis. That will help you become better, and that will make the Vidyamandir also an ideal institution. It's already an ideal institution, but for an institution to remain ideal, generation after generation of the students will have to keep up that standard. So you have a great responsibility. You have inherited the legacy of your senior student, those who have come before you, who have worked hard through their success, through their hard work. They have achieved glory, not only in their personal lives, but they have brought glory to this great college. Now you who have inherited that great legacy from your seniors, you have to now live up to that, and you have to work hard and pass on this great legacy, this great heritage, this great tradition to those who come after you. So my prayers to Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother and Swamiji, that through their infinite grace, may the hearts of everyone at Vidyamandir be filled with strength, with compassion, with love, so that your lives will be blessed and you become an instrument of peace, of joy, and everything that is good and great to everyone in your life. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.